Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, we just hit 3,740 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers. And special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members Brandon Mikel, Hasher for MVP, Salacious Crumb, Rye Guy 1218, Brendan Nelson's Haircut, VGK Tigers, It's Hoof, The Reno, TVO, Austin Roberts, Scott Todd, PH Glass, Aaron Garrett, Arfman 23, 12th Man, and Pete has Big Meat 44. All right, we have three more UDFAs to get through here, and then we're going to be done with it. So these last three are defensive players, three defensive UDFAs we picked up, and I would say that all three of them have a shot at the roster. Some of them a bigger shot than others. There's one in particular who I think actually has a better than 50% chance of making the practice squad. So that's exciting. But let's just go ahead and jump right in and start taking a look at our first UDFA. This one's a defensive tackle from Virginia Tech, Jarrod Hewitt. 6'1", 288 pounds, definitely undersized as far as defensive tackles go. But as far as three techs go, that's not too far off from what you would typically see from even the elite ones. So he had a 4-year career at Virginia Tech, 13 tackles his first year, 2 TFLs, 15 tackles, half a tackle for loss. 2019, he broke out, 33 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. And then in 2020, he had his best season yet, 31 tackles, 7.5 for loss, and 5.5 sacks. Really nice for a defensive tackle. Pretty impressive. I think that there is some potential here for him to latch on to some team. I don't know if it'll be this team because we're relatively deep on the defensive line, but 7.5 tackles for loss and 5.5 sacks for a defensive tackle, pretty credible. Nobody had a draftable grade on him. The Draft Network and Pro Football Network both thought that he would be um, they both had him ranked. They both took him seriously as a prospect, but they didn't think he would get drafted, and nobody else even had him ranked. So him being a UDFA is no surprise. So Jarrod Hewitt, what I can say about him as a player, he's explosive as a three-tech defensive tackle. He can launch himself at the snap. He's got good timing for the snap. He knows how to use leverage very well, and he's nimble and agile. He's good at moving laterally, and he's got a good motor at chasing down plays. Some downsides would be his small size can cause him to get pushed out of the play. He's not very strong, and he's just an average athlete overall, despite having some explosiveness. So I think this guy has long odds to make the roster, but it's not impossible. He did have two very nice seasons his last 2 years at Virginia Tech. All right, so that's prospect number one. Let's go to number two. This is Jon Rhattigan, a linebacker who played his college career at Army, and he only really had one season, but it was a pretty good one. He's 6'1", 245 pounds, and he runs a 4.7740, which is, well, pretty darn lumbering as far as a linebacker goes. So put that in your back pocket for the moment. 2019, he played a little bit and had 6 tackles, but 2020, he broke out. 78 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, a sack and a half, and 2 interceptions. I think he had a touchdown as well on defense, actually. Um, could not find him ranked by any major draft aggregating website. Seems like nobody really thought this guy had a chance of being much of anything, which makes sense when you think about it. He had one starting season at Army. What I can say about him is very little. He was a key piece of one of the best defenses in the country in 2020. Army had a great defense last year. He played multiple roles at the second level of that Army defense. And as for what kind of player he might be in the NFL, other than being a special teamer, which goes without saying, he projects as a backup Sam linebacker in the NFL. And we do, oh, sorry. We do kind of sort of have a bit of a need at Sam linebacker. Maybe it depends on what some of the guys on this roster can do. Barton, Taylor, even Mayoa. If they can't do it at Sam, there might be a need for some serious Sam depth here. So I would have actually said that Jon Rhattigan had a good chance of making the practice squad until this happened. Aaron Donkor was allocated to the Seahawks as part of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. He's from Germany. I think he played in the European Football League, and the NFL basically gave him to us. And here's the thing about Aaron Donkor. Number one, he's actually a pretty impressive athlete. He's not just some charity case. His 40 time was 4.6, which is not that much slower than Jordan Brooks. And Jordan Brooks's claim to fame was his speed. So right then and there, I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, well, Aaron Donkor has probably got a spot on the practice squad before Jon Rhattigan does. And also, apparently, the NFL will give you a bonus practice squad spot just for the international player. So if we have Aaron Donkor on the practice squad, we have 13 practice squad spots instead of 12. So that's got to be worth something, right? That's got to be worth keeping him over somebody like Rhattigan. And by the way, Rhattigan might not even be able to play in the NFL this year because of his Army deployment stuff. So I would say that Aaron Donkor is probably in on the practice squad and Jon Rhattigan is probably out. So not likely to make the team. All right, that was prospect number 2. Let's go to prospect number 3. And this guy I like and think has a real good chance of making the team. Bryan Mills, cornerback from North Carolina Central. This is a very sea hockey type corner, which is kind of interesting because that's obviously what we did not go after in the actual draft. He's 6'1", 180 pounds. He's actually a little lean, a little slim. 77-inch wingspan and runs a 4.640. So he's slow, but he's big. And he only played one season in college because he opted out with the COVID stuff. And he had 22 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 8 pass deflections. So pretty good ball skills. And Bryan Mills actually had a draftable grade from ESPN and the Draft Network. They both thought he would get drafted. ESPN had him almost in the top 150. Pro Football Focus thought he was just barely going to go undrafted, as did Pro Football Network. And Walter Football did not have him ranked at all. So Bryan Mills, he uses his length well. He's very effective when able to get his hands on opposing receivers. He's very physical like that. And he's got great ball skills. There was one game he had in 2019 where he had 3 interceptions. He made a lot of big plays during his 1 year in the NCAA. He seems like the kind of guy that the Seahawks would have drafted a few years ago, but maybe we're starting to move away from that. But regardless, he still has skills that I think we value. He plays stronger than his slight frame would indicate. He's not necessarily a weakling just because he's only 180 pounds. He's a good tackler despite his size, although he's not great at shedding blocks, which is not surprising for a guy of this size. He does have some issues with lack of awareness, but that's probably easily explained by the fact he only played 1 season in college. And he does struggle against quicker receivers, which is pretty obvious when you look at his 40 time of 4.6 seconds. Um, it's not a surprise that he would struggle against quicker receivers. So I think Bryan Mills is probably going to make the practice squad at the minimum. I would be very surprised if he didn't latch onto this team in some capacity. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm excited to see if he can be the next sleeper cornerback that Carroll manages to groom into something at least NFL caliber. And I think you will probably see him on the 53 man at some point in 2021. Maybe only for a couple of games, maybe just as, the call up, the weekly call up from the practice squad, but I feel like he's going to be involved somehow. So those are the last of the UDFAs that we picked up right after the draft. I think that a lot of them have a great opportunity to make this team and have an impact in 2021 maybe. I think that a few of them have faced long odds, but it's going to be fun to see them try to compete. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think of these 3 guys in the comments. And let me know what you think of the Aaron Donkor thing in the comments. I mean, free practice squad spot, right? And can't beat free. So, yeah. Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys in stream later. And pretty good haul, guys. Pretty good haul.